Crash and burn.
Hey everybody. So tonight I'm looking to discuss the episode of The X-Files that is supposed to, I guess, tie up any loose ends concerning the conclusion of the TV show Millennium. This episode is from, I think it's the third episode or fourth episode from the seventh season of The X-Files. This is when The X-Files decided to, financially speaking, up their game and move from Vancouver to LA, move the entire production from Canada to the United States. You can tell that in the seventh season of The X-Files. It's like they got a huge cash infusion. Because prior to that, like The X-Files is a great show, but it did sort of have a sort of kind of like a low-key kind of Danger Bay sort of Beachcombers Canadiana vibe to it, because it was always kind of filmed a little on the cheap. And this episode feels bigger. It feels, like I said, there's more cash poured in. But they just completely destroy Millennium. Because, if I'm not mistaken, the lore behind the two groups, like Owls and Roosters, are the two separate factions operating within the Millennium group, vying for control. It's essentially they're obsessed with finding the cross that Jesus was crucified on, as well as being tied into Nazi ideology by way of the Nazis' obsession with the occult via what everything that they got up to in World War II. And the two sides of the Millennium group are battling for control. And again, it's to do with the idea of finding the cross or the part of the cross that's left that Jesus was crucified on. And that plays a significant part in the lore of Millennium. That's not mentioned here at all. There's nothing to do with the Nazis, World War II, any of the things that were covered throughout the run, the 3 years of the show Millennium. None of that takes place here. Apparently, the Millennium Group's plan was to launch a zombie apocalypse all along. That was what the Millennium Group's plan was, because that's what they do here. 4 members of the Millennium Group, none of the pictures that I really recognize. And that was sort of the first mistake they made. I think they could have shown some faces we would have recognized at some point. Like, I don't know, find a way to get like Hollis back or something. Like, you know what I mean? Throw in a face I can sort of connect with. They're just 4 dudes, and I don't remember these people from the show. So maybe they were in there the whole time and I just missed it or something. But nevertheless, maybe they could have found a way to maybe tie in Peter Watts, because Peter's death was sort of ambiguous. Like, it was suggested that he was dead. We saw his legs, or a pair of legs, in his office in his house. But then maybe they could have had Peter commit suicide here, and that would have definitely carved in stone what happened to Peter Watts, because otherwise his fate is left kind of open. So anyways, these 4 dudes from the Millennium Group commit suicide, and then there's a necromancer played by Donnie Darko's dad. And he is going to raise them in a specific way at a specific time, yada, 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 in order to bring about the end of the world, sort of like a zombie-based 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. I think Mulder even references the 4 horsemen specifically throughout the episode. I don't know, it just doesn't make sense. Like, nothing about this adds up. It's like, it makes it feel, too, at times, like, when Mulder is discussing the Millennium Group, in one sense, he's speaking about their power with a sense of reverence and respect. Like, he's like, yo, these people were big. But then on the flip side, his overall description makes them sound like they were more just like a roving band of lunatics who had a touch of power here or there. But in the show Millennium, they were calling pretty much all of the shots for everything in the world. Like, the Millennium Group had their hand in every major event ever. Like, so I don't know, again, there's the disconnect. The X-Files suggest that they were essentially a doomsday cult, moderately powerful, but not powerful enough. But then in the show, they're kind of a doomsday cult as well, but they're seen as being a doomsday cult with their claws and their tentacles wrapped around government agencies around the world. And it's like, you know, you can't fuck with the Millennium Group because they will bury you. Whereas in the X-Files summation of the Millennium Group, it's more like, yeah, they're dangerous, but just stay off their land, basically. Like, they're the Branch Davidians or something. I don't know. It just feels like... I think, too, if I'm not mistaken, this episode was written by Frank Spotnitz and James Wong. And they should know better. I don't understand why this was ever signed off on. And then Frank Black, he's institutionalized himself because he's fighting for custody of his daughter Jordan, because Catherine, his dead wife's parents, say that he only cares about his job and that he's not interested in his family anymore. And in this, he confirms that. But in the show ends with him realizing that, well, Hollis has switched sides, Watts is probably dead. He grabs Jordan from her school and they just disappear. They drive over a hill into the sunset, and their future is left wide open. And it's suggested that they had to run and hide because Frank was inevitably going to be slaughtered at some point by the Millennium Group because they were bad and he had no friends left. But then the X-Files suggests, I don't know what it suggests. It doesn't actually touch on that very much. It just says that Frank institutionalized himself because he feels like he was breaking down and he was putting too much attention on his career and not his kid. So then what were they running from at the end of the show Millennium? At the end of the show, like I said, when they escaped over the hill, they drove into the sunset. Why were they running from her school? Why was he so eager to get Jordan out of there if there was nothing to worry about? Again, I feel like this episode just sort of destroyed everything the show set up. And it's bad enough that the show that was based around the Millennium didn't even make it to the Millennium. And then Frank doesn't even stay around to watch the Millennium happen. He grabs Jordan and they leave the institution. And it's like, oh, not that he had to watch, Dick Clark count down to the year 2000, but it even felt that was sort of disrespectful. Like Frank, like Mulder and Scully are like, you're going to watch the countdown? He's like, nah, I just want to get out of here. And I'm thinking to myself, whose daughter is coming to visit them at some sort of institution, like some sort of like government hospital at midnight? The countdown's happening. Jordan comes. He's like, oh, Jordan. And they leave at midnight. What fucking hospital is letting visitors in the hospital at midnight? It doesn't make sense. Really, though, the end was about getting to see Mulder and Scully kiss, because by this point, the X-Files fan base was obsessed with them getting together. So I don't know. This was kind of a waste. I really like Mulder. I like Scully. Felt like in this episode they were kind of making fun of their characters in a sense, because at the start when Mulder points out that the coffin looked like it was scraped open from the inside, Scully says, no, it's not a zombie. It was somebody setting this up to make it look like that. And Mulder gives her this look like, Scully, it's been 7 seasons of you saying it's science. You know it's not fucking science, lady. It's going to be a zombie. Mulder says necromancy. She says science. Who's right? Mulder. Every episode from episode 1, season 1. Science, no, monsters. Science, no, Bigfoot. Science, no, vampires. Science, no, zombies. Everything Scully says is never right. And so I did get the feeling like in this episode, Mulder and Scully, like Gillian Anderson and David Duchovny were sort of like to their characters a bit. But look, I'm going to leave it there. This episode was kind of disappointing. I felt like it really disrespected the history and the lore of Millennium. And in a lot of ways, Millennium was the superior TV show, because I found overall Millennium, especially the first season, to be far more unsettling than anything the X-Files had ever done. And that is a remarkable statement, because the X-Files, they gave us characters like Eugene Toombs and episodes like Home. But the inbreds fucking their mom, and they got on this little wheel plank thing under their bed. And, the X-Files, it's done some, like X-Cops. That episode is scary. That's a wicked episode where they team up with cops. And like the X-Files have a bunch of killer episodes, but I found overall Millennium to be far scarier. And this episode just shits all over Millennium. Yeah, so that's it. I am getting out of here. So thank you so much for hanging out with me for a little over 9 minutes while I discussed how the X-Files kind of ruined Millennium. Don't forget that you guys are amazing, because you are. Have a good night.